The circle jig from MLCS Woodworking is a great accessory to your PowerLift equipped router table. As you'll soon see, this jig is good for making more than just circles. The jig mounts on the router table by sliding it into the T-track style miter slot. Position the jig over the bit and tighten it down. The pivot point is positionable in the miter track located on the jig or the miter track located on the router table. You just slide it in and then lock it down with the Allen head screw. The distance between the pivot point and the edge of the bit is the radius of the circle. The circle jig includes this handy ruler that slips over the top of the bit and allows you to easily measure the radius that you desire. The same sliding pivot point can be used in the miter slot of the router table. Just position it, use the ruler to determine the radius, and then lock it into place. Before cutting your circle, you should raise your bit slightly above the thickness of the material you intend to cut and then set the depth stop on the PowerLift. As you cut the circle, this will allow you to bring the router bit up into the work and stop at the depth that you desire. After locating the center of your workpiece, make a small pilot hole, and then position this pilot hole over the pivot point on the jig. A few taps with a rubber mallet secures it in place. The hardened steel pin holds the workpiece tight but allows it to spin freely so that you can cut the circle easily. Much like a plunge router, you're advancing the bit into the workpiece little by little and taking multiple passes while rotating the workpiece. I use the foot pedal so I can keep both hands securely on the work. Setting the depth stop gives you the confidence to know that the bit will only come up as far as you've set it. So here we've reached the top of that bit height and it's just now poking through the top of the workpiece. When I'm done with the cut, I use the foot pedal to retract the bit down below the table. The result is a perfect circle with a nice clean, crisp edge. The jig in this position can cut small circles, as small as a couple of inches. When you have a need to cut larger circles, that's when we move the pivot point into the miter slot. We can cut circles up to about 34 inches in diameter on the MLCS router table. When cutting larger circles, I use this simple mount that extends a feather board over the bit and puts downward pressure as I rotate the workpiece. On larger pieces of wood, this really helps keep the wood stable during the cut, and you get a nice clean edge on the circle. It's perfect for making round tabletops like this one. Using an off-center pivot point, you can make an arch top panel to be used in frame and panel construction like the doors on this cabinet. This creates a gentle, even, and smooth arc. Here's a simple jig that cuts the curve in the bottom of a cross member that I'm making for a small table. I had a lot of these to cut, so it made sense to make this jig. Everything came out the same, and it has a nice smooth cut on it. Check out how simple it is to cut the circle in the front of this clock. For more information on the circle jig or the PowerLift, visit MLCSwoodworking.com.